Okay, good morning. I presume you can hear me clearly. So today we are taking a training on recruitment. So this particular training is designed for everyone who is to be onboarded on the associate recruiter role. So and if you can hear me, please, I want you to type I can hear you so I know very well that you can hear me excellently well. So while we'll go ahead with the training, because we barely have time and have a lot to cover on this training, which is Introduction to Recruitment. We're going to be talking about the following fundamentals of recruitment, which includes, I presume you have the outline already shared with you via the group chat. So please refer to the outline and you just join me along while we go on with the training. So the learning outline here is for fundamentals of recruitment, job analysis, purposes, and uses, as well as the sources of job analysis. Then we'll go ahead to talk about job description and then job specification. The essence of this for an associate recruiter with us is designed to equip you with the right knowledge that you require to handle basic recruitment exercise. Every other information with regards to that particular role has already been shared within the group, and every other one, the subsequent information about that will be shared after the training has been concluded. Okay, so practically, when we talk about who this training is actually for, I already mentioned that it's for the associate recruiter role. Then let's go ahead and talk about the learning outcome, which is the essence of recruitment. You're trying to understand the essence of recruitment, then understand how to do a proper job analysis, and also get to look out for those information to do a proper job analysis. Then finally, how to create job specifications as well as the details of that job specifications and responsibilities, which includes the JD itself, that's the job description. Okay, so now while I go ahead, please. Okay, so while I go ahead into the session, let's move on to training to the first one, which is recruitment. Now, what exactly when we talk about recruitment? Because when we get at this stage, we're not going to be discussing so much like a robust topic on that. That's going into the details of that. We just want to do the basics of this recruitment. Now, when JDs are shared or when there's a vacancy, first of all, when there's a vacancy, the employer contacts or reaches out to you and shares the details of the vacancy, lets you know, okay, there's a vacancy and what do you need to do from there. So now, what you need to understand, first of all, has been packed in this training. So we're going to be starting with how you need to identify the talent that is required for that particular role, on how you can interview with them, and as well as how you can select the right hire for that role. So which in terms solidifies the knowledge around the recruitment, which to define it, we say recruitment is defined, or recruitment it refers to identifying, interviewing, and also hiring of the employees. So if you have a vacant role that needs to be filled, conducting a recruitment exercise specifically means that you want to identify which person is very suitable for this role. Then you want to also um, conduct the right form of interviewing and profile assessment as well, because that interviewing is broad, which includes the profile assessment. So we'll get to all those and we'll talk about them in details. Then how do you now say, okay, this is the right person for this particular role? How does this person fit into this role effectively well? You don't want to say, okay, you don't want to spend all the time and all the resources getting the wrong person for the role, and at the end of the day, they are a misfit for the role. So it's more like a waste of time, a waste of resources for the organization, a waste of time and resources also for the person that is being interviewed or brought on board, or we seek to bring on board. So you don't want that to play out. So it means, in a nutshell, that if you're going to undertake the recruitment exercise, you know that what you want to do is to identify the right talent for this role, interview with them, then you make your decisions more like you have to screen their profiles and ensure that they fit into the role, then you make your hiring decisions. So, but before you can do all these things, you need some basic information about that particular job, and that's what we're going to be talking about under the job analysis. So now let's go ahead and talk more on recruitment. So when we talk about recruitment in itself, what's the importance of recruitment and what is the purpose? Which brings me to the next slide. Why do we need that? For instance, if you work directly as an associate recruiter with an employer, where you have the opportunity to predict or when they would need manpower, or where there's going to be a surge in the requirement or in the demand for manpower, for instance, the seasons within the year that influence this. A practical example of that is within the festive seasons, where they need to, for instance, in the manufacturing sector, they need to ramp up productions and the rest of it. So you see, at that particular time, you can forecast, okay, there's going to be a need in this or this. Then that is one. Then secondly, there are times where you meet with, when you analyze the performance of or evaluate the job functions, the performance, what is expected of a particular employee versus what the organization is looking out for to get done. When you analyze these two and they are not meeting up, you also know that there's a need. So more like first importance there, or which is on that list, is determining. It helps you determine the presence. It helps you to determine the present and the future manpower requirements of an organization. For instance, if an organization is also looking to expand, or to let's say they're expanding across different geopolitical zones of Nigeria, it tells you that there's going to be a need for manpower. So, but from the focus, from the general plan of the organization for the year, you can make a focus into. You can also make your focus by determining, okay, who, where, when, and where this manpower will be required. So you begin to make plans to get those manpower ready. So that's also one of the major reasons, or one of the major importance and purposes for recruitment is to determine the present and the future manpower requirements of an organization. Then we'll go ahead to talk about the second one. We talked about it prevents disruption of business activities. Of course, when, for instance, one of the employees begins to behave funny, or lets you know, okay, they're getting tired of this particular job, it's more like a warning bell for you as a recruiter, where you have to start working to get a replacement for them. So they will tell you, I already gave you signals, and you didn't take note of that. Because sometimes they wouldn't even say anything. In this day and age, where people just walk away without without giving the organization a 30-day notice based on the contracts that they signed, and they just walk away after receiving their pay for the month. Just walk away or dropping their resignation letter. So sometimes you can read the red flags. You can also read from the body languages, so you can prepare to avoid or to prevent a disruption in the business activities of that organization. Then thirdly, we want to talk about that it improves the credibility of an organization. Of course, when you are able to map and as well as forecast the manpower need of an organization, of course, it's going to reflect on the credibility. Take for instance, a customer service, a customer walks into a particular store or outlet of the organization, and they are unable to meet with a representative there because someone resigned abruptly. So that's definitely going to pass on some form of negative information or perception about the brand or organization to the customer. You don't want that. So that's why sometimes you see maybe there's an emergency where some staffs are asked to just quickly go to this branch, or to go to that branch to stand in or step in for an employee who is sick, because there might be issues, maybe like emergencies. Somebody might be trapped into in an emergency and they cannot be able to, or maybe it might even be a serious emergency, health emergency, and they may not be able to live up to their duties. So someone steps in. So this particular place helps fill that void where it might just be an in-house recruitment where someone there's just like a reshuffle. Somebody just quickly walks in and standing for that particular employee until they are better, or until they sorted out that emergency for themselves. So now the next one talks about advertising, of course. The next one, now we're talking about the process and the methods of recruitment. One of them is advertising. Of course, if you're going to get people, it's not just as though you just go out there and get people. When you get into the process proper, or into the industry proper, you find out that it's not just everyone who is saying, okay, I need a job, are actually prepared for the job. So in doing this, or in getting to know this, you find out that sourcing for the right candidate can be somewhat tasking. That's why different approaches are employed, such as the advertising the vacancies on career sites, job boards, social media handles, and industry publications as you as you deem fit, or whichever one is much more convenient for you in using. Then we talk about accessing the organizational talent pool. Sometimes there's a data pool or the database in the organization where, for instance, people who work in and just drop their CV, or people who visit the company website and just they submit applications ahead. Even with when there is no opening, they just want to drop their profiles. So the option know that they are interested in them. So in this instance, you may want to choose that particular approach, which is the second one, to go through the optional database, find out quality profiles in the within the database, and you can bring them on board for this particular exercise. Then the third one is about employee referral. Then employee referrals, which you could get from friends, from HR colleagues, from other employers, from anywhere possible. What plays out here is that the employee is being referred based on competence and capacity, because wherever they are coming from, somebody, whoever is making that recommendation or is making is referring to that employee must have had an encounter with such a person and must have known their capacity to deliver on the job. Then another one is rehiring ex-employees. Oftentimes there are places where ex-employees are rehired because of the urgency. They might just reach out and get ex-employees, possibly people who have led maybe on contract basis or even on mentoring basis, to mentor existing, maybe new employees who have. A practical example might even be the engineer. It's much more conversant in the software engineering industry, where even if people have served with the option and moved on, you want to still get their attention. Possibly if there's something you want them to fix, the option wants them to fix, and they come back and fix that and still go on contract basis. It's just done, and they move on and they continue with what they're currently working. Then the next one talks about collaborating with employee, and that's employment exchange. Then finally, we talk about recruitment agencies and professional organizations. There are recruitment agencies and professional organizations that can be leveraged to help fill vacancies in very good time. So now the question is, okay, as associate recruiter, why is this why is this important? Why are we considering all this? It's imperative because at this time, it's imperative that you know where to look out for profiles. So when you are saddled with a task and a responsibility to deliver on a vacancy, there are key factors here, which is time. The employing organization is paying close attention to timeline to delivering the profile. Very, very much important, because they have clients and customers to cater to. So if as a recruiter, you are unable to pay close attention or to prioritize time in delivering on this, then there's an issue. So that's why it's very much important that we consider all these various approaches where you could source the process and the method where you could source and get your profiles quickly and on time as well. Okay, now this takes us to the next one that talks about the basic skills that are required for this process. Now, what do we do? Efficient communication is very much important and imperative for an associate recruiter or for a recruiter. Effective communication and reporting. Effective communication, efficient communication. When we're talking about effective, it has to be effective because when it's effective, because whoever you are reporting to or whoever you're communicating with understands the very essence of that communication, understands the basic details, the message that is being passed across is well understood by the other party or by all the concerned parties connected to that communication. Then we'll talk about that it is efficient. It's efficient because at the time when it is needed, it is delivered. At all the information that are required, it is wholesome, it is complete. That's when we're talking about the efficiency. Then the mechanisms, the platforms that are used are top-notch, such that, for instance, maybe I have to reload to get the information and time is gone. And at the end of the day, it means that that information is just useless when it is getting to me. When at that time, maybe the need for that information is gone. So it's actually not efficient if that is that. So the best platform or the best medium to communicate also makes it also considers for efficiency. Then we'll go ahead to talk about the reporting. The basic information that are required in that, for instance, if you're reporting on a particular profile, if you're on a particular interview or a particular profile that you have interviewed, all the information that is required, that is needed, you have to, there's attention to details, more like an interview report. Every single detail has to be there. If you're creating a summary about why you have selected this particular candidate, this shortlist, it has to, that if they, for instance, if an organization says, okay, we need this, but we need a shortlist, and you give them a shortlist of 5, you need to let them know how you came about that shortlist. So it means it has to be detailed, it has to be thorough. The reporting process, for instance, if you're able to get quality profiles, you get that's that reporting mechanism such that everybody is carried along. Then let's go ahead to talk about confidence, confidence and curiosity in the process or in the quest to know more about the candidates you are interviewing. So it's not just about interviewing with candidates, and at the end of the day, you don't even know who you're interviewing with, or you cannot be able to say, oh, this is what I think, or this is my own summary about the person I have just interviewed with, which talks about. So you have to have that confidence. So confidence is very much important as a recruiter. Then talk about the curiosity to know more. So you need to pay close attention to detail, which is actually the third one. And it does. The second one is confidence and curiosity to learning more about that particular candidate. So if we stay on that, what it means is that when you are interviewing with this candidate, you want to ask the right questions. You want to ensure that you are getting the right answers. So it's not just about asking questions and not getting the right answers. You ask the right questions and you're getting the right answers. That is one. Then you want to ensure that the answers that are given are also adequate, they are complete and they are wholesome. They're not just half truths about that particular candidate. So meaning if I tell you that I did this as somebody you were interviewing, I should be able to prove to you what I did when I did, like give you basic information, and you should be able to investigate it thoroughly that I was able to do this. So I can't just say, okay, I was able to achieve XYZ results, and you're unable to prove that I was able to achieve XYZ results. You should have your mechanism or develop a mechanism to finding out that whatever information I've shared with you is practically correct, and you can trust those information. Then we'll go ahead and talk about the next one, which is effective listening skill, and an eye for detail. So if I'm saying something, you should be able to place one-on-one together. If I say, if I give someone you're interviewing, if I give you some information, you should be able to, based on the things that I've already said prior to now, you should be able to say, oh, if I add one-on-one together, is it true, or am I just fabricating things and saying? Of course, people can do that. You don't want to get trapped in a situation where the whole process or the whole recruitment process looks so incompetent. Then an eye for detail. Every single detail is supposed to be there. For instance, somebody might just write on their CV working from X or maybe from 2020 till date. And by the time you're asking basic information, you just find out that, oh, this person has even left there. It's no longer there, but you're saying till date. These are some basic errors on CVs. Then we'll go ahead to also talk about some critical information. So what this is saying is not just about listening to the person. When you're listening to the person, you're paying close attention to what is on their CV. So if they are saying something else and what is on their CV is contrary, you want to ask questions. You want to find out why the disparity. What's the difference? What's the difference about on the CV? So you want to investigate that and find that as well. Then, I wouldn't want to buttress much on that, but there are people, there are reasons why people leave organizations. You also want to find out why they left their previous places of work. Very, very much important. So now, for the purpose of time, let's move on to the next one. Okay, still on skills required, we'll go on to talk about the ability to identify and display positive body languages, of course. Your ability to identify positive language when you're having a conversation with the candidates, you should be able to say, okay, this is like it's a great positive language, or this is a positive language. You can make your research on that. For instance, when someone is saying something versus what their body language is saying, it's completely different. I cannot be telling you, for instance, maybe we're hiring for a cleaning operations manager, and as the candidate, I'm unable to even present myself as someone who is clean and someone who has an eye for details when it comes to cleaning services, and I appear so unkempt. You definitely would say that what I'm saying is practically opposed to what my appearance is, or even when you compare them with my CV. So it means every single thing should align. I cannot be telling you that I am a marketing expert when I can't even be able to market my profile very well. I said I'm a sales executive, I'm a sales expert, and please introduce yourself to me. I find it difficult to introduce myself to you. How then am I a sales executive, or how then am I a sales expert? I think the lines are connecting here very well. So, and when it comes to we'll take the questions. Please, at the end of the sections, I'll craft out some time so we could take the questions together. So if you have questions, just put them there. Then we'll talk about displaying positive language. As the interviewer yourself, you should be able to display positive language. We'll talk about earlier confidence is very much important as as associate recruiter. So now the next one talks about patience and ability to anticipate the future. So first of all, let's talk about this patience as a basic skill for a recruiter. It's very much important that you have patience, ability to listen to someone. I will connect that with the body language that we talked earlier. So now, as you should be able to, when you're paying close attention to someone or listening in on an interview, you should be able to exercise that patience to get all the information that you want. Else, if there's no time enough, there's no point handling that session. Just there's no point. We can reschedule. Get a new date and time where you can have all the time to get the basic information that you need for that particular position. You don't just ask something, maybe, or you just get some answers and you get thrown off, and maybe you feel irritated by what the person is saying, or you feel irritated by the personality of the person of that or their persona. One of the things you can always do if you need to sometime to reschedule, or if you find out that possibly this person is not who you are looking for, yes, it should not be displayed on it should, like, on your body language. You should not tell. You should find a way to pass that positively. Oftentimes also paying close attention to their own mental health. Then secondly, the place of rejection, or the place you don't need to play on intelligence such that they feel so bad by intervening with that's very, very much important. So your body language must be positive. You must be very positive in every your conversation, in your words, from all through the process. Then we'll talk about that same patience. Now, what I want to stress here is that you need to create that time to interview with each of the candidates. Now, you can just pick one, at least you can just allot 1 hour for a part. So in case you use 30 minutes, oftentimes for 20 minutes, the key questions they want to ask, they focus on that and they ask those questions. But you might be scared if you are scheduling for just 20 minutes and this is maybe a high level position where there are a lot of things to discuss. You can't just finish that in 20 minutes. That's just it. There are some positions you can't just finish them in 20 minutes. Then what's the essence of you schedule and you come back tomorrow, you still come back there? Why not create a very good time, ample time to get all that information once, so that if you are meeting again, at least you have made critical decisions before meeting with that particular candidate again. At least for that second time, there should be a note of confirmation that this interview is heading somewhere. Now, then finally, we talk about ability to anticipate the future. More like when you meet with a candidate, you see a great profile. Oh, you just know that this is exactly the kind of thing that we are looking for, the kind of person that we are looking for, or the kind of skills, expertise, kind of knowledge that we are looking for, the kind of result-oriented person that we are looking for. That's one there. Then finally, on this particular list, talk about strong networking and relationship building skill. You would need this because there are times where there will be pressure to provide a profile. For instance, if there's an abrupt resignation from an employee, how will you handle this? Of course, it's going to be on you to fill that position ASAP. So how will you get this sorted out? It's very much important, where you have to now create a network of other HR, a network with other HR as well. Then talk about relationship management. So you have to build this relationship and manage this relationship. So people who can help you with profiles. Now, we'll go on to talk about the second session. So this brings us to the end of this particular first session that talks about the introduction to recruitment. So now let's talk about job analysis. So in case we have a profile, so how do we go ahead and talk about that? I think maybe I can take some questions here. When I take some questions, then we can go to the section 2. Please, if you have a question, you can just go ahead and ask, so we can just move on to the next session. Let me get your question on this first session that we considered. In case if you don't have, I'll just give some time. If you don't have any questions in that particular place, I'll move on to the next section. Okay. All right. Okay. So I think I'll just take that maybe you're still trying to digest your questions. Just you can just pen them down. It should, new thoughts come to you. So just move on to the second phase. Please turn on to the next slide. Now we talked about job analysis. Now this is practically about analyzing a job. When you say, okay, let's take for instance, we need let's say a technical assistant. It's broad. Who is a technical assistant? What exactly do we mean technical assistant? Because the employment official will just say we need a technical assistant. Please send us profile ASAP. Now, what exactly? Where do you even begin? What does it mean to provide them with a technical assistant? Who exactly fits in as a technical assistant? Because if you say technical assistant and you begin to search through the database, there are a lot of people who have done who have been technical assistants before. Now, but their job functions may not be the same. It's very much important that these basic details are gotten. So this is where job analysis comes in. Take for instance now, okay, if in a situation where the option supplies you with the details about that, then that is because this is often the norm, where the option is going to supply the basic details for the job itself, so it can be the profile matching process can now begin. So, but in that instance, now take for instance that this is a new role, and a job description has to be created, and there is no HR. Let's say the option does not have HR, or this is more like an outsourcing that you have to visit that organization to get this basic information. So now this is how job analysis comes in, where you have to get the details about that job. So now, what exactly is job analysis? It practically, in simple terms, it is collecting every single information or all information about a specific job. The information that is required. That's what job analysis means. So you collect all those basic information that is required or for a particular job or for a specific job. That is a summary of job analysis. Now, there are different ways you can get this information. There are different ways of collecting this information. So now, but we'll get to that. But this is very important, where we need to know that for every job that is, or for every vacancy, or for every job that opens up, there is a need for a job analysis. Now, take for instance that the organization supplied the JD, that's the job description, to you as the associate recruiter. Now, there are basic things that you need to do. Study the job description. Understand who exactly fits into this role, because this is what will help. This is what will help in understanding, in getting the right profile. Because sometimes you may think you understood the role, but you just did not understand who exactly fits into this role. You might just, okay, this person is, let's say that technical assistant that we talked about earlier. This a technical assistant that will do this, do X, do Y, do Z. Now, and that's when it comes to the specification, that is these, all the specifications are listed. And so, okay, you think you get the exact, you think you get the exact details about this particular person. Now, when we now get the person, you just find that, oh, there is more to this particular job. We'll take, for instance, I'll now give another example. Take, for instance, that you need a business development person. Let's use that one because this is much more broad. We'll say a business development person. Now, this business development officer or executive, a business development officer, person, the person that is required for this role, you just get someone who understands business development, who has done business development, has let's say for the specification it says a minimum of 3 years experience on that same role. Now, on that same role, what exactly was that person doing that for that 3 years when they were doing business development? It is a very critical question. Then, this new job role, this organization, what exactly do they do? What exactly is this business development person designed to do when they come on board? Because both of them might not just be the same. Of course, there are similarities of job functions. That's basic to-do list, that the basic day-to-day to-do list that is going to be similar. But there are key things that are required for this. For instance, the basic how they will go around sourcing their leads for this particular industry might be completely different from, let's say, sourcing the leads for oil and gas, completely different from sourcing the leads from health sector for the health sector. How they go about gaining contacts with those leads. It's very, very much imperative here. So it doesn't just mean, okay, because this person did business development, okay, they can just function anywhere. Now, then that's why that's where industry experience comes in. If I put that in a summary, that's where industry experience comes in, such that when you have to pay close attention to the industry, where this person is coming from versus where they are going, where they are going to be placed. So is it okay? Can they work together? For instance, someone who has worked as a business development person in a hospital can also work as a business development person, let's say in a laboratory, health laboratory. That fits very well, and every other thing within the health sector it can fit excellently well. Then there are some business development, some organizations who may not mind, but will also do some basic training with regards to their own industry and how business development works. So if the organization is willing to do those level of training, then that is great. But we find out that in current days, most of the just want someone who can hit the ground and run. They don't want someone who will come on and lag behind for a few, let's say a few weeks or a month and begin to push. So they want someone who can hit the ground and run it. Now, when we talk about still on this particular subject I'm talking, I made reference to, there's that business development person. If a business development person, a sales executive, or even a marketer, let's say, is to move or to make, for them to excel easily, they have a list of contacts. So if the list of contacts they have built for the past 3 years or for the past 5 years or 10 years is irrelevant to the new industry that they are coming into, it means is that they won't function, they won't just hit the ground run. They'll have issues in the very first 1 or 2 months because they're going to spend a quality time to build a new client portfolio. But in an instance, it's much more easier if they can pull, or if they can have access to the place where they are coming from, the industries where they have been for the past 5 years, for the past 10 years. So you see why industry experience is very, very much important or imperative when doing a job analysis and trying to identify the right profile for a job. So not just when a JD has been given, you just go ahead and just pull anyone anywhere and anyhow. Then we'll go ahead and talk about what's exactly the purpose for doing a job analysis. On the next slide, it says just enables the organization to fully understand the nature of the job. So as an associate recruiter, this helps you. As a HR person or an associate recruiter, it's very much imperative for you to know the job functions, what the person is going there to do. So it's not just like, because if you know exactly what the person is to do or what the job requires, it means you can be able to provide the right person for this particular job role, so they can do their job excellently well. Now, it is very also important because you knowing the right person for this role will help you get the right person. And when the right person gets to the job, it's not difficult for them to perform. It's not difficult. It's not difficult in any way for them to have great performance on the job. So when people have struggles in their job function, is because they were in fit in that role. So now, and this is where other remedial approach might be brought in, more like training, special performance management sessions, such that they can be brushed up and they can pick up. And there are some instances where if they are totally a misfit for that particular role, it means the employee has to be let go, and you don't want such a situation to play out. So you want to carry out, you want to do your due diligence and ensure that they are fit for the role. So this job, the purpose of doing a job analysis, both for you as the associate recruiter, is to help you understand. That's what we're talking about for your own perspective, from your own perspective now, is to help you understand the right person for this role. For the organization, so they have all the details about the person who is coming in for this role. What exactly are they meant to do? This is the things that also we can now create key performance index, because if you don't even know what the details of the job, you can't even create the right performance index. So it helps to the option to get this basics of the job. That's understand the nature of the job. Now, when we're talking about the nature, we'll go into the details very soon. Now, let's take, for instance, under that nature, we're talking about the uses now. So the uses of job analysis here, so training and development. when you understand the nature of this job, you understand, okay, this person that is coming, do they require additional training? Or do they have the requisite training for this job so they can just come in and they hit the ground running? So they really require additional training and development. So, or this job role, whoever is going to be coming on board, I think this is the right level of training that is required, or the skills level that is required. So in the instance where they don't have that skills level, it means that they are going to be retrained or upskilled. Then we go ahead to talk about business performance management. Now, understanding the details or the nature of that job helps also with the business performance management, because if the right person, like I said earlier, if the wrong person is placed, you have a misfit and the business struggles because the person is struggling and not doing well on their job. As long as they're not performing excellently well on their job, then there's also going to be a performance issue with the organization. Take, for instance, you have that kind of misfit from, let's say, out of the 10 or out of the 10 or 20 sales executive in an organization, you are having 5 misfits there. So it means that you have like more like let's say 25% of the manpower not doing excellently well. Take, for instance, if they're up to 10, that's 50%, then that's the major issue which needs to be quickly addressed by the organization. Then we'll move on to the third one that talks about occupational health and safety. So when we understand the nature of the job, we understand the hazardous nature, we understand the risks that are involved, we understand the safety requirements for that particular role, we understand how do we make this job role safe for whoever is also coming, and how do we also protect their health in executing this job. We take, for instance, they're working in a manufacturing firm and they have to deal with chemicals and the rest of that. So this particular role, what exactly do they need? What safety kits and safety gadgets do they need for this job? So understanding that job will provide this particular information for the organization. That's considering this organization. Then now, as a recruiter, how does this place get to you? So we're talking about fitness for a particular role. Take, for instance, this is someone who is going to be operating cranes, more like a let's say we're recruiting for a workshop manager, or a warehouse manager. So it means that this is someone who definitely should be fit for the role, because there's going to be a lot of moving around to do, not just sitting in a place. Then let's go ahead and talk about that's just one example out of a million. Then let's say human resource planning, the next one. So job analysis helps with human resource planning. So you know when, where, like every single details about the job, when you need additional manpower, where the resources are to be deployed, the basic information that is required about this job role, the knowledge, all this that we've talked about, to plan that job role effectively well. This is where job analysis, it provides that the basic information that are provided by job analysis is implemented or is used for human resource planning. Then we move on to the next one that talks about employee compensation. So now, if you understand the risks that are involved, the risks that are involved in executing a job, then you should be able to have the adequate compensation for the job. Take, for instance, people who have to go offshore or who have to work in heights, dangerous heights, or dangerous sea levels to execute certain job functions, or they have to go under the sea to execute job functions. So adequate compensation has to be made for them. Then talk about people also who there are different job functions that are they're high level risk jobs. That's aside. Then we'll now talk about everything that makes that job rewarding and adequately compensating for whoever is undertaking the job is very much important. So job analysis helps to identify every of these details so that the employee can be adequately compensated. Then we'll talk about talent selection. Of course, I've made very much details. So this is where it much concerns us as recruiting associates. So it helps you to understand the kind of person that is required for this job role, such that you can select the right talent for this role. Then go ahead to talk about the job evaluation. Evaluating a job. So if you understand the details of the job, so if you understand the details about this job, you can also know when whoever is hired is not performing, or whoever is in charge of that job function isn't delivering the requirements of this job, isn't delivering on that job at all. So job evaluation. So then it's also required for guys. When we're talking about this job evaluation, we're also making emphasis on performance management. Because when we see that this person is not delivering or measure the when we use the index, we find that possibly this person is delivering 50% value on that particular job for which they were hired and are being paid. So we want to say, okay, we now have to do possibly, is there an upskill? What kind of development are we going to bring around to help this person perform maximally on the job and deliver at least 100% on that job role? So this is where the evaluation comes in, where what is expected versus what is delivered is analyzed, and at the end of the day, the employee begins to put in their very best. So so the employee is happy, the organization is happy. So now talking about the job specification. Of course, analyzing this job helps us understand the specification that is required. Now, let me give some example. Of course, we're going to consider that job specification very soon in the later part of this training. So we say in that job specification, for instance, there are some jobs that requires a lot of running around. It's much more stressful. So you want to find the right person who has the capacity to withstand stress. So it means their medical reports has to be reviewed. A lot of things has to be put into consideration, not just bringing somebody because they have experience and they have all the experiences, but should they have developed some health challenges maybe within the last few months, it means they can no longer function in this role effectively well. So, or maybe they might be moved to a different department that is less stressful, even though they have that experience. So that's where this specification comes. So it outlines, let's say, for instance, the age. Let's say this is supposed to is much more effective when a specific gender handles it, or a certain age range, or those basic details are very much important. Then finally, we talk about process reengineering. In this job analysis provides all this information, more like all this information that we have talked about, can help with the process reengineering. For instance, when we have looked about, we'll say, these employees, we've hired this employee and they're not doing so well. Possibly people who have been on that particular role have not done so well. And I say, what is wrong? Is it that the hiring process is wrong, or the talents themselves is wrong, or the HR managers are having issues getting the right person? So what exactly is wrong? Maybe a thorough review, a detailed job analysis can help reveal the fact that maybe the process has problem. So when we re-engineer the process, I mean the organization now, when the organization re-engineers the process, then possibly the employees can begin to do it effectively well. For instance, when there are some investigations you conduct about employee performance management, that is on employee performance management drive, and you find out that it's the process that is the problem and not actually the people. So when the process is re-engineered, you find out that the people begin to perform excellently well. So of course, job analysis can help provide that information that is required for the management to make decisions on process re-engineering. Okay, now this brings us to the next one under job analysis, which says sources. Where can we get information? Where can we get this information on job analysis? Now, as an associate recruiter, you work with an organization. So now, these are the places where you can get. For instance, when you conduct training, that is one of them. Please, you can turn up to the next slide. That is under the sources for job analysis. One of them is training. Now, in training and retraining people, you can, because in the process of training, there's a place for information exchange, more like the practical sessions. So you want to, maybe where these practicals are ongoing, you want to see, oh, this person may not have even known this thing very well, or the way this person was taught, maybe the methodologies are outdated. There's a new methodology. So from the process of training, you can get more information. That is one. Then second, that is if you are the one conducting the training, that is one now. But as an associate recruiter, you can come in when these trainings are being done for existing employees, and you can get more information from that particular place. For instance, where there's a routine workshop on a particular job role. Let's say we have, let's say, field engineers who work in a certain sector, maybe like the telecoms. So now, what's in joining that particular training, you get basic information about this job role. Okay, whoever is coming in should be able to do this, should be able to do that. Now, you can even get materials from their previous trainings. So it helps you to understand, okay, so whoever we are bringing in should ultimately have had this knowledge. Let's say should have ability to do this, that should have knowledge, or should have been trained with regards to this, with regards to that, with regards to XYZ. That's one of the major things. So sources of getting this information on job analysis from training, like past trainings that have been conducted, workshops, and the rest of that have been done. So you want to research about that and get those basic information from there. Then we talk about interviewing. Now, when we're talking about interviewing, this is not more like the job interviews. No, that's not where this what we're referring to here. This is more like interviewing existing employees on that job role. When you speak with these people, when you, for instance, you visit the workshop and say, okay, this is one of the engineers, you want to discuss with the person to find out details about that particular job role and what they do there. So you get all the information from that kind of interviewing session. That is another one. We're talking about observation. You want to visit that particular site, you want to visit the site or the plant and find out what exactly is going on there, how the job function is being executed. So because when for instance, you have to conduct the interviews and you listen to whoever understands the process that is you are interviewing. If that's the right candidate and they give you the process, you just know, oh, this person knows exactly what they are saying. So versus someone who does not understand the process, just run around, trying to cover the facts or skipping the main facts out of their reply. So by doing that's where observation comes in, because firsthand you have observed, you have joined them in their session and you have observed the process of executing that job function. Now, the next one is questionnaires, where take for instance, okay, maybe there's no time to execute, so this cannot develop questionnaires that can be shared amongst these, might be online, might be hard copies of questionnaires, and is shared among the team members. Every single one begins to give you begin to fill this questionnaire, and it needs to be so easy. More like there needs to be options that is like tick boxes where they can just check the boxes, give you replies of A, B, C. Very much important. Then more detailed, no one particular approach to be used. To deploy basic all the approaches, more like places where they have to also give details, more like like theory, they write out the details, not just like tick boxes alone or pick A, B, C, or but they also have to write out details about the job function as well. Now talk about the job reports and records. Job reports and records is also very much important, more like the previous reports. Activity reports. Every single day when employees close, they prepare activity reports, what they have done for the day. They write them. There's a record that is being kept. So you want to visit the HR and the HR department and get all these records and view the details about what was done or what is being done in this particular section of the organization. So with this, you can get all those information. Then finally, previous job descriptions about that role. Maybe there are new changes about this particular job role, or this job role needs to be meshed with another job role, another job function. So you want to get the JDs of those job functions that are being meshed. So you find a way to find where you can get a balance and pull all the information together. So I think this is very much detailed. I'll take that again, which is training, interviewing with employees on the job, observing the job firsthand, being amongst them and observing the job firsthand, then questionnaires, preparing questionnaires and sharing them with the employees on the job. Performance appraisal, you want to conduct a performance appraisal with the employees who are currently on the job by handling a performance appraisal session or by joining in on a performance appraisal session. You can get basic information. And outside of that, not just an ongoing performance appraisal, you can get a performance appraisal report. That's a performance appraisal that was done previously, maybe by another HR or by the HR department. You want to get that those the details of those performance appraisals, so you can find out, okay, people who did well, what exactly were they doing well. So this will help you understand the details about those about the job. Now, why is this particular, why are all this information about job analysis important? It's very much important because, take for instance, there's a takeover in the organization and a new, like let's say, a new set of management has been brought in. Every single thing is being re-engineered. All the processes are being re-engineered. All the departments, there's a reshuffle. Like you see, this is where this is very, very much critical. That at least the details of each of these jobs needs to be preserved. And also, whoever is coming, maybe there are departments that are going to be merged. employees that are going to take on job functions. So there are a lot of places where this is very, very much important that this job analysis is understood and also it's being implemented very well. So we just talked about the sources of this job analysis, and this brings us to the end of the second session, and we are about to go into the second session, which is the third session that talks about the job description itself. So I think I'll pause here again and let me see if there are questions I could quickly take. So if you don't have any questions, I could just quickly take them now and before going to the third one. And if you have them, I just drop them now. If not, you can just reserve them at the end of the session. I'll just take them all at once. Okay, all right. If there are no questions yet, let me go ahead and talk about let me go ahead and address the next one that talks about the job description. Please go on to the next slide under job description. So now, what exactly, when we talk about job description, for instance, hiring someone else, we're hiring someone to do a particular job for the organization, of course. So what is this person coming to do? Who exactly are we expecting? Like, what are the details? What's the timeline to even fill in this job role? Like, what details do we require? So this is where the very popular JD comes in. So the job description itself is just a written outline of essential responsibilities and specification for a vacant position. So it's more like the written outline and essential responsibilities and specification for a vacant position. Very, very important there. So every single detail about this job, that is every single detail about it is essential. So every single details about that responsibility and the specifications about that vacant position makes up that JD. So now, if we begin to say, how then do we even identify a job? So under job description, we have three key areas we want to break the job description into, which is job identification, the job specification, and the job responsibilities. So we've broken them down into three key areas. And in these three key areas, we're going to be starting with job identification. So now this helps us to identify the job. When we're saying job identification, so when we're helps whoever is working on it or whoever it is addressed to. I'm talking about the candidates, the applicants. Now, then the organization itself, the HR department, how can they trace this job? For instance, how do they file this job? How do they trace this job? How do they archive details about this job? That's where job identification comes in. Now, when we're talking about job identification itself, how is it like? What department does it belong to? What are the basic details about it? So now let's go into job identification itself and consider the details about job identification. What does it include? First of all, job identification itself includes job title. So there needs to be a job title for that particular job. And even in addition to it, some organizations might even have job codes. So there's a code and there's also a title such that, okay, there's, let's say, XYZ 001 or XYZ 002. It might be, and the code is often tied with a department. Now, where you have all these details are more like bigger organizations. Take, for instance, you have a very large organization such that there are multiple departments. So that's where, so you don't just know this person which department is coming. So when they see a job role, by looking at the job identification, they can identify which department has this opening or owns this vacancy. So they know where to address or that's where to address their applications. So that's where job identification is very, very much important. So now the details about the contents of job identification includes job title, the department itself that is advertising that particular job. That's why for some they try to cover the department by including code. So the code itself identifies the department. While for some, the job title is there, the job code is there, then you talk about the department inclusive. Then go ahead to talk about the supervisors, that is the supervisor's title. Who is to supervise this job? Or this job is supervised by, so it's written there, is it going to be supervised by someone in that department or by someone outside of that department? It is written there. But not all this information are listed to the public. Some of this information are withheld with the organization, like when the HR department, when they are doing this basic documentation, every of this information is listed. But when it is going on job board, some information might, some information that are very much sensitive are withdrawn, and the basic information that they require for the job role are that the public requires for the job role, so they can apply for that job role, is being displayed. Now, when that employee is finally brought on board, all those information that were withheld while it was being publicized are now shared with them, so they get all the information there. So it's not just every of those information that is being shared outside. More important. That's why when you check out some job boards, you see some job displays that are very, very much detailed. They include all this information that we're talking about, but for some, they don't include it. So it's not like it's a must that they must include all this information. But the rule of practice requires that all this information is there. So, for instance, when you visit the HR department, you find out that all this information is there. If there's an investigation about a particular job, you get all the information so they can know who actually is the head of the department, who actually is the supervisor for this particular job role. Like, they want to get all this information. So this is where it is very, very much important that organizations create this. But oftentimes when you go to the HR department, you get all the information that you require in line with this. Then we talk about the supervisor's title, the job summary, more like the details about that, a summary on this job. What is this job all about? What kind of person are we looking for this particular job? So this is very much, this is where a summary is given on that particular job role. So there are some I must mention here that maybe in your common research you might see a situation where people say job identification and job summary. So they want to lump up the job identification versus the summary itself. For some places, it does not just go down with the job identification is just basically this is what we're considering now, and job summary is completely different from job identification itself. The job summary gives us just a holistic view. So one will leave, okay, this is the kind of person that they are looking for this particular job role. The job summary introduces the company, introduces what they do, introduces the kind of person that they want for that particular role, and introduces, so it's just a summary about that particular job role. That is what that job summary is. So it has nothing to do with job identification. Why for some people, they might just tell you that when you see some articles, you see job identification or job summary. So, but they should not be lumped up. They are completely different. They are not just so the same. But it all depends on how people want to write the articles. I'm not the one writing it for them. Then we'll go ahead to talk about the dates the job description was created and when it was reviewed. For instance, there had to be a date. There had to be this information is needed. For instance, the date of the job description itself when it was created. When, for instance, if it is today that this job opening is created, it needs to be written, not just the day it was published online. We're talking about this documentation. Now, this job, as I was saying earlier, not all this information is being published maybe in job boards. No, this particular one is domiciled in the HR record of the organization. So the date where the job was created. If the job is updated, for instance, now the job functions of this particular employee is updated, more like where most people must have heard people say, oh, this is what they wrote. Then after a few months, the job there was more job function added to my job description. So you see, those kind of statements that come in. Of course, this is where we're talking about where the job description itself is revised or is updated, and more details are included or more details are excluded. There are sometimes where some information are more like they are redundant job functions there. So the organization might decide to remove those redundant ones and add new job function for that particular role. So the employee can be much more effective. So now this often time comes up where there's a re-engineering of process. So once the process is re-engineered, you want to now review or add more job roles or remove some certain redundant jobs. Okay, so now this brings us to the next one. I remember I mentioned that the job description, we splitted them into job identification, job responsibilities, and job specification. So in this particular place, we're talking about the job. Let's consider job responsibility itself. So now, the job responsibility in itself is the function of an employee, which they have to perform on a day-to-day basis to succeed in that position. That's just what the job function is. That's what the job responsibility of the person is. More like, okay, you're going to be doing this, you have to do this every day, you have to do this, you have to liaise with this, meet with that, do this, provide this reports, do that. So what they are to do, they are more like to do lists, daily, weekly, monthly, so that they can succeed in that role is what we just call the job responsibilities. I hope that is broad enough and very detailed. So all a total and detailed written note about that, and it's just the job responsibility. Okay, I think I will leave that and skip to the next one that talks about the job specification. So now, which is the third one and the last one on that particular group of JD. So now we say the job specification itself, all these are how do we match this person? We are looking for, let's take for instance, we're looking for a personal assistant, or we're looking for a technical engineer for XYZ, or for whatever reasons, whatever it is, whatever position we're looking for. Now, how do we even identify the right person that we want? How do we identify the right profile for this job? Remember, when we're talking about the right process for the right profile for this job, we're saying that this person has the capacity, has every single this is the right profile. This is the right persona that we're looking for this role. So now there are key things that form of that make up the specification, which includes the required knowledge. So there are some places where you see requirements, or that you might see where the job specification is substituted for requirements, say job specification or job requirement. That why for some job descriptions they create a specific requirement different. So requirements, when you see job requirements, they are not. It is not just a summary of the job specification itself. No. So requirements might be different, and there are other additional requirements. So do we have one requirement versus second requirement and third requirement? So that's where the job specification sums them up in detail. So now there are basic requirements for a particular role, particular job function. So now we say the required knowledge. Like what does this person need to have known about this job role? Meaning, should they have been trained for this job role? What kind of training do we expect them then to have taken? That is another one. Then we say, what level of training should these people have taken? Take, for instance, like the most recent one we were hiring for HSC director. We find out that, okay, there are specific training for you to occupy the role of a HSC director. It means that there are certain trainings you should have, certain knowledge you should have. Like you don't need to be brought on board to be trained. No, that's what we're talking about. The required, that's basic knowledge that you are coming with already, what you're already bringing to the table. Then we talk about your skill sets, what you can do, how skillful you are with when it comes to health safety. Like I'm just using that as an example. So how skillful are you when we have incidents? So I want to, from my interview, if I'm going to be interviewing with you, there are kind of questions I'm going to be asking that will help me understand that you have the skill set to function in this capacity. So I want to find out, okay, what skill sets do you have? It's not just about writing it on, I can do this, I can do that. Your skill sets on the I will test that and see that you can do that. Then there are some skills I also need to put, which is practical, where that's why for most job functions, you come in, you brought in, everything does not just end on a virtual note. You have to come in and test, so we can test the skills level, because we're talking about skills itself. It's not just even about having skills, the skills level itself. So we have the just proficient, we have the we have the proficient, we have the intermediate, we have the professional as a pro, and we have people who they are very, very good on this particular job. That's excellent skill level. So you know that, oh, this person, these are just excellent. These are people who they can coach other people on this particular job function, on these particular skills. I mean, then we talk about education. Now, for instance, if we need to have like a director for a particular job role, are we saying, is it going to just be the same HND BSc, or are we looking for an MBA if you have like an MBA to support the HND BSc, or are we looking for an MSc, are we looking for PhD for this particular role? So it all depends on the level of education that is also required for this particular role. So I just gave an instance of the HSC officer, HSC supervisor, HSC director. So these are three different categories of job function of job functions that we're looking to fill, which is currently ongoing. So in this particular place, it's very much important that we know this education level for this particular role. So we know this person wants to have this is a minimum education level for this particular role, for this job function. So you should be educated. I won't talk about it. It's more like enlightenment, the exposure. So that's just what we're talking about. Then we're talking about certification. So now, if we still on that particular example, the HSC example that I gave, let's say for the HSC officer, we're not saying the NEBUSH certification must be a prerequisite. But if we want to consider the HSC director, it must be it's a must. You should have it. You cannot say you're a HSC director and you don't have it, at least even an international certification about that. Then talk more of the memberships, the membership certification as well, with other maybe within the local level and associations as well. So these are very, very much important. So because all this regulates the practices within this space. Then we'll go ahead to talk about the minimum qualification that is required. Now, take for instance, we're talking about minimum qualification. Let's say from the phase of the education, we're saying the HSC, BSc under the minimum qualification. Remember, when we're talking about the minimum qualification here, we might say, okay, maybe we want a BSc and we want a 2-1 or a 2-2, or we want just first class and distinction for this particular role. And also that's from this particular field of study. Let's say, of course, it's going to be HS, someone who studied health, it might be even health, occupational health and safety. So it all depends on what exactly do we want. Now, this qualification that we're talking about here, now, we want someone who studied occupational health and safety as a director. So we cannot just say, okay, maybe you did business administration, then you went to go and do a training on health and safety. Okay, yes, and you have some certain level of experience. So it all depends on what the organization wants. So if the organization wants someone who has spent this level of years gaining knowledge, getting educated, and has these basic qualifications, then is being certified and has this basic qualification. That's exactly what has to be delivered to that organization. It's an associate recruiter. So don't just go and say you want to get someone who maybe that did business admin or someone that did engineering because they did engineering because they slowed down because they did this or that. It has to be exactly in line with the minimum qualification for that role. Then we'll go ahead and talk about persona attributes. Instances where you've gone through some job requirements or specifications that says someone that has the ability to do this, ability to, let's take for instance, okay, I'm not going to mention this, but under the skills level, somebody that can handle maybe Microsoft Office suite, that has these software skills, can operate these skills, or can operate this system, these machines, that's under the skills level. But under this attribute, we're not saying let's confidence level. Somebody under somebody able to comport themselves, or we won't talk about under the persona. We want to say someone who has, let's say we're handling for the HSC director now. They're kind of the charisma we are looking for, the ability to carry themselves. That because you cannot just be a director and like you cannot command respect. That's exactly what we're talking about here. The charisma, the persona, like the basic things that are required about this particular person. Can you handle training? Can you communicate with people effectively well? Can you effectively manage people? Can you effectively manage processes? So these are things that we're talking about, persona attributes, like that makes you able to function in that director level, or in that supervisory level, or in that managerial level, or even in that basic level or the entry level, whichever that's personal attributes about this job role. For instance, now let's say we're hiring for customer service. So it means somebody who is outspoken, someone who we should be looking out for someone who is outspoken, someone who can engage with the public excellently well, someone who can empathize, someone who has the ability to connect. So these are the kind of people that we're looking for. Someone who is jovial. You don't need to force the person to connect with the customers or with the clients. These are the kind of person we want within that space, because the customer service duties can be very, very difficult when managing angry customers and the rest of that. So you want someone who does not get angry easily, someone who the different things about that. So you cannot, when it comes to other job roles, that same persona will not apply. So it all depends on this particular job role. Remember when we did job analysis, the kind of person that we are looking for. So still, take for instance, now we're looking for a workshop manager where you have heavy duty machines and equipment that needs to be moved around and the rest of that. Yes, they're not moving it with their hands, but they have to use the cranes to move them. But their class, there are different kind of attributes that is required of the person who is going to be dealing with machines. These are the kind of things that we're talking about when it comes to persona and the attributes itself. Okay, I think this brings us to the end of that particular list. So let's go ahead and now talk about the general content of the job description. So now that the basic content of a job description, that's the JD. In summary, now we're saying that the basic content of a JD should include the job identification and the summary. So how do we identify this job? What is the summary about this job? Remember when we group them, or we're bringing order, we're making it much more broader now. So we're not talking about the essential and non-essential functions of the role. There are some job functions where you read them, you see all the basic details that are critical to that particular role. Then there are just other ones that are more like passive roles that needs to be played. But sometimes those passive roles might not just be something that is being done on a daily basis or weekly. It might just be something that will be done once in a month, once in 2 months. Take for instance, this is a technical engineer who has to deal with machines, but has to maintain the machines on a regular basis. But that's more like when we're talking about regular basis, say once in a month or twice in a month. These are more like they're essential, but we're talking about that this particular function is essential and is on a daily basis, on weekly basis, or monthly basis. But there's some non-essential job roles. Non-essential job roles like maybe paying close attention to other people that they work with, or to collaborate with other people to create certain job functions, or to maybe provide some oversight, not oversight function, more like to reach out or to stand in for somebody else. So these are just non-essential functions that will not non-essential doesn't mean that it is not necessary, it is not so required for the role, but it is not completely tied to the success of that role. That's where that particular non-essential function comes in. It's not just so essential that it determines the success of the role. That's what I mean there. Then we'll go ahead to talk about the job qualification itself, the job qualification and skills. I just made mention about that. I talked detailedly about job specification and skills. Every JD should contain job qualification, job skills. They talk about physical demands and work environment. Remember when we talked about when analyzing the job role, we find out that this occupational health and safety is this what exactly do we need to make this environment safe for whoever is working there. Take for instance that the person has to there are gas emissions there, or there are going to be some kind of conditions within that environment. So it's imperative that we evaluate the physical demands. So all these things are put in place with regards to the JD. So remember that by paying a close attention to these physical demands and work environment, we can be able to also get the right person for the job. Then we'll talk about scope and changes. These are some other information about the job role, but sometimes they are not included in the one that is published outside to the public. But it's within the HR department. Then we'll go ahead to talk about there's equal opportunity employer statements. It's very much important. Though not just all job publications are written there, but it's important that it's included there. Where that statement is there, more like we must have seen it being written. We're an equal opportunity provider, or we're equal opportunity employer, such that we don't discriminate between genders. We do not discriminate between race and rest of that. So all those information, but sometimes some people may think it's as unnecessary or excess information. Then but it's important that it's stated. It's very, very much important that it's stated. Then we'll go ahead and talk about salary range, application closing date. Very much important that some job roles, that the application closing date is there. But there are some job roles that are somewhat difficult to be filled. Some more like if you're looking for some kind of technical expertise that is still not popular. I'll use that word. Take for instance, there's a new software and there's a new technology in town, and people need to take some time to train and get acquainted with that new technology. So it might take much time to get someone to fit into this particular role. So in that instance, there are some job roles where you see more like the closing date is not listed there. It's just more like it's ongoing. They're not listed there. Or sometimes they can even include the like a 6 months or a 3 months timeline. So then finally on this list we talk about how to apply. It is very much imperative that how to apply is listed such that whoever it is, for instance, if I see this, how do I apply? Now, this is very much important because oftentimes, as humans, people always do whatever it is that they feel like doing. You find it still laughable that it is written how to apply, but yet people will go visit the organization, visit their profile pages, and start calling the organization. So you call their customer service desk and say, okay, I saw this publication and I want to apply. How do you want to apply? Via a phone call. But that's not a conversation that we just want to. So it's very much important that you create for them how they want to apply. So those who actually want to apply will follow the instruction that is listed there and they apply. So those who may just want to play or who may want to work around it, more like visiting the organization when you have an email that you can just send your applications to them. That's fine. Whatever approach they want to use, but they should already have known that that's how apply states how the organization wants to receive application. Every other application outside of that method is disqualified automatically. So they already need to know that. And if they don't know that, then that's more like you don't need to blame yourself for that because that's more like their own pot or cup of tea because it is listed there. How do you apply? This is the details of how to apply, and you need to abide by those rules. So this brings us to the training for this particular one, which talks about the recruitment, job analysis, and the job description. So I think I'll be taking the questions here. There's the subsequent training, which is for tomorrow, will be on the interviewing itself, interviewing and selection. Then I think I'll just pause here and take the basic questions for now. Please go ahead and ask questions. Okay, so I think I'm seeing some questions. Says, okay, so someone is saying, what if the employer haven't the had any job experience? Okay, and as an associate recruiter, what can be done? So that's what I talked about. They should have the HR department where all this information are archived. So in an instance where there's no detail about this particular job role, so you want to research over the internet, people who have recruited for this particular job role. Okay, what are the details about this job role? You want to conduct, the internet is your friend. So you want to research about this particular job role, you get a lot of details about any job role that you feel is new. I think that answers for that where the organization, but there's no how the organization itself does not, they want to hire for a particular role and they don't know the basic things that they need for someone to succeed on that role. They will definitely provide you with those information. But in that instance where you function, possibly maybe you work at the HR there, or you are the more like the associate HR there. So it's you can use the internet as an effective tool in that instance. Okay. So I think the next question talks about, okay, job identification process is includes, okay, someone just making a reference to what I just said. Then please, what is the difference between job identification and job summary? I just said that earlier then. So the job identification, all the details that identify the job, like more like this job, what are the associations of this job? For instance, the department it belongs to, who is to supervise this job, with the job title, the job code, like where do we go looking for the person that is going to work on this job? Like who owns this job? What department owns this job? The basic things that helps you to understand where this job is associated or connected to in that organization. All these forms that, but the job summary gives a total, like helps people to understand that when it's going on, help people to understand the organization that is trying to hire. What do they do? The person that is required. What kind of person are they looking for? Then want to talk about then we'll talk about the when I mean what kind of person are they looking for, both in experience and the incapacity, charisma. So it's saying a summary of that. So that summary is more like that is what I refer to as a job summary. But the job identification itself identifies the job. which will include both the job summary itself, the job title, the job code, the department itself, the supervisor that is involved, dates this job was created. All these form the job identification. Okay, I think the other question talks about this. Okay, says I hope the slide will be sent. The slide was shared. The slide was shared in the group. So the slide was shared in the group. So everyone should just make reference to the slide that was shared there. Okay, the next one talks about the job identification. Okay, that was just a summary. So let's go ahead and talk about should be. Okay, these are other info. Okay. Okay, so when we talk about confidence and charisma, we were making reference to the associate recruiter, or the skills that are required for you as an associate recruiter. You need to have that. You need to have that for yourself as an associate recruiter because it's important. You represent the organization. You need to have that level of confidence and as well as the charisma to engage. When it comes to the candidate itself, this falls under the attributes. It falls under attributes and it falls under the persona. If you check the slides that was said, it's at the list base. So it falls under by particular, which under this, that is, it falls under the job specifications. So under that job specifications, you have that you have them under the attribute, that's the persona and the attributes of the kind of person that they are looking to hire on the role. Okay. Next one says, okay, how do you tell a candidate is lying from his experience? Compare what they are saying, compare the CV. That is it. Ask questions. For instance, I've had situations where I discuss with a candidate, and at the end of the day, what you're saying is completely different from what is on your CV. For instance, okay, let's take a practical example. If I say I'm a sales executive, or if I'm interviewing a sales executive, and you said you've been able to sell to X, Y, Z, I just ask you, what's your biggest sales? What exactly? Because if you tell me you made 100% sales in 2 months or in 3 months, or you made 100% profits, and because there are a lot of figures people quote, you want to ask them, how did you measure that? Because if I say I was able to deliver 125% sales, or 125% increase in sales figures or in my sales target, my first question is, what exactly did you sell? That is one. How much was it? Two, what was your target? So by that, I will make a proper analysis. By that, you give me those information. When I ask you about that question, you tell me you don't, and we sold it in group. It was like a group. So the target was given to us in group. So this is how then did you come about you selling 125%? Automatically, that information is not true. So you cannot tell me that you sold 120, you made 125% increase in sale, and yet you don't even know what you did as a personal performance. That's why I tell people, if you should be able to know how, like, you should care about your performance, but you can ask your HR managers to give you a performance report so that you can get all these facts. It's very so that when questions like this are asked, it does not seem as though the person is lying. So when they don't have this information armed by themselves, so it looks as though they don't know what they're saying. You cannot say you have this experience or you can do this, you can do that. Then let's take for instance, you say you can you sold exactly where you did this, you did that. I just say, okay, sell to me. Let's take for instance, so you can just sell to me. Let me see. I want to see your approach to sales. Just go ahead and sell and let me see the expertise. Then I want to play the difficult customer. I want to see how you be able to work around. So then that is one. Then you tell me a customer service person, you're able to do this, you're able to do that, you're able to work around very difficult customers. In fact, you converted redundant customers and you brought them to like you tell me all these wonderful things. I want to find. I will play the difficult customer for you. Then bring me back to as a loyal customer to the organization. Then I know that you can be able to do it very well. So that's it. It's role play. Investigate. Ask questions. When you ask questions, do a role play. You get all the information that you require. You can be able to tell if person is lying from if they are not if they are telling the truth. Okay, so then go ahead to say, next one says, Okay, say how do you get to find out where they have to? Of course, that's where background check comes in. We'll get to study this in the profile review session. That's in the subsequent training. Because in subsequent one, you will get to find out what we're talking about. Someone was asking, how do we verify that they truly worked? If I say I worked in XYZ organization, how exactly do we? Of course, we'll get to those information. We'll talk about it because people claim for instance, someone worked as a sales officer and he said that he worked as a sales manager. So he said you just worked as an officer there, and you will say a manager. What exactly did you manage, for crying out loud? Did you manage people? Did you manage processes? What did you manage resources? What did you manage? Just it was a title that was just given to you, and you were just walking around and saying you were just a manager. What exactly did you manage for a manager? Okay, so we'll get to those information. So we'll get to how. But if I will answer that question straight away, I will tell you that it is background check. Background check is made. You want to get, that's where we talk about reference. You want to get information. Do they have the phone number of their HR? You can just collect the phone number of their HR, their supervisor, their fellow colleague. You want to ask questions. You want to call. You want to ask questions. So if they cannot provide all this information, then there's a scheduled visit to that particular organization to find out, do this person actually work here? Did they work here? What did they do? And in what capacity did they work? So those there's some kind of I won't give those information about on this particular place, but I think there are some basic information that are requested, and you get to verify if truly they worked in the places where they claim. Okay. Okay, there are someone's talking about some skills level. As I said, that not all skills level can be tested even just by words or by conversation. By practice. A certain skill you have to implement them, you have to practice them. Remember, I just said somebody was saying the ability for them to negotiate with an angry customer. I'll just play an angry customer for you. Convince me, make me back a loyal customer. That is one way. Then that's more like we have practice it right away. Then in a place like maybe like a soft skill, they say you can do this. Oh yeah, see the computer, start doing. That's why a physical assessment is done to ascertain your skills level. You see a programmer, you can write codes, you can do this. Oh yeah, okay, see this small thing. Write this code. Let's see that you can do it. Or you say you're a software tester. Oh yeah, you see. So it's not just like that's the practical session. That's the practical aspect of the interviews of the interviewing process of the hiring process. So the practical session. So we have to advance from the oral section. So we are done with the oral part of it, and we're convinced to move to the next stage. We'll come to do the skills assessment, and we'll find out that okay, you can actually perform. You have this skills level. So, or this is the level of skills that is required. Let's say we need a level 8 skills, and your skills level is graded at 5. Means okay, what you need is upskilling. Can we do the upskilling? So if we're okay and we can do the upskilling for you, fine. If you know what we need is someone that can hit the ground running, then we'll go ahead and look for someone who has that level 8 skill. So I think that's particularly answers the question. So that we'll go ahead to talk about says I start getting information from the CV, questioning how we can source information. We can source information from employees. Okay. So, of course, questioning is one of the ways you can get information from the employees. As exactly just looking at reinforcement. Yes, you by questioning with the employee, doing a role play with them, you get basic information that you require from that particular employee. So it's not just I can do this, I can do that. Put them to test and see if they can do it actually. Then go ahead talk about salary range. Okay, is it right for okay, how much they earn in their place? Of course, there are places where of course there are some job functions that is imperative that you know. Take for instance, if you are the one that's going to do the negotiation about you definitely would need to ask the question about how much they earn in previous places where they work. But in an instance where it is irrelevant for you to ask that question at that time, there's no point. There's no point asking those questions. Then there are certain rules. Take for instance, if there is a benchmark to how much the organization is willing to pay, then take for instance, then the particular role, let's say is a managerial role, and you want to find out what is the salary expectation. So with that, you can be able to measure what is the salary expectation, or you want to ask how much exactly where they earn, where they work, so it can help you with your negotiation process. Or we know if this person actually within the range of what who the organization can hire or not. So I think that that is more like there are a lot of factors to determining if you can ask those questions about the salaries of the employees or how much they earned and where they previously worked. Okay. Say, can a test or a small exam be introduced for the applicant, even if it's not stated by the organization as a recruitment associate? Of course, of course. That's exactly what we'll be talking about here. That you have to, there's whatever way will help you assess the skill level of this candidate. This is what that's it. You don't want to do a shabby, or you don't want to be seen as someone who's doing a shabby job. You want someone that you want to be able to do this effectively well. That's where it comes in. So you want to, in every, whichever way it's feasible, it's okay for you to handle this effectively well and find out that this person can perform on this job role. Then that's exactly what we're talking about. So, but the question is, at the end of the day, the process has to be accurate. Process has to be accurate. To me, you have to do some research about it. So ask questions and more questions matured. Like, it just has to be professional about the questions that are being asked. Okay. Okay. Is it necessary to go into the to go deeply into the person's previous place of work? Okay, of course, there are some particular job role. Take for instance, if we are to hire for an accounting job role now, or a finance job role, and that we want to have someone who's going to handle finance job functions. We want to know, where did you work? What have you done? Why did you leave the previous places where you work? There are people who had issues where the places where they work. So if you don't make some basic background checks, how do you find out that certain things did not happen in the places where they worked before? There are people who have defrauded their previous employers. You don't want to just bring another person who come and defraud your organization they came. People who have committed crimes, who have committed fraud in places where, like, you don't just want, you want to do the thorough work that is required here. Okay, so it is of course, the essence of doing a background check, which one of them includes contacting the previous places of work, is to ascertain or to verify that this person worked where they worked. Now, take for instance, how would you look in an instance where you just brought somebody who just forged their certificate, their created a CV that they worked XYZ non-existent companies, and they brought and they submit CV and they are working. That's more like, that's what, like, it's look as though, what exactly did you do? How did you come about the, so, but these person provided certificates and none of them provided CV about places where they work, and people can fabricate things. So that's why it's imperative that background check has to be done. So okay, we'll go ahead to says, okay. How do you calm down someone who is nervous during an interview session? Just, of course, there are a lot of people, it might be their first time interviewing, it might just be they are prone to being nervous when they are with a new person. In that instance, familiarize. When you get on with such a person, you want to ask, because actually this is more like a online training session. If it were to be like a physical training session, or like the other things that we would have done, interact and to douse the tension, connect before we begin to talk. That's one of them. For instance, if I asked you, how was your day, exchange pleasantries, asked you about your welfare, I not necessarily going deep and asking you personal things about yourself. But when I see that, oh, you are apprehensive, or you need some time, I'll just ask you, can you just take 30 seconds, breathe, just breathe. Like, it helps you calm down, calm your nerve, and you can go ahead and have the conversation. Okay, so now the next one talks about um, okay, the work environment and the job location. No, they are not the same. They're not the same. When we're talking about work environment, we're talking about the place where this person is going to work within that facility. But the job location, we're talking about, take for instance, this job is located in Lekki, or this job is located in Lagos, or this job is located in the island, or in Lagos, or this job is located in Abuja. Different thing. But we're talking about in the environment now. Now, if you take for instance, you're working in a manufacturing company in Agbara, so now the place where you're going to work, the basic things that are required. Well, that's where we're now in that environment. That's when I'm considering occupational health and safety. So is the kind of person that is required. What's like these are things that will now begin to talk about it, analyzing the job function of that person within the environment. Will the environment be safe enough? That's where environment we want to consider HSC within that particular space. So the job environment and as well as the job location, they are not the same thing at all. Okay, so the environment strictly tries to focus on the safety of that particular employee, while the location is try to focus on the proximity of where the employee lives versus where the job is located. We're going to talk about that in the subsequent training. Very much important in hiring a particular, that's where profile screening comes in. The person might be an excellent person, but is living very far away. Stress will just chase the person out of the job, or will make the person ill, or will make the person unable to, that is unproductive. The person not able to give their best to the organization. Take for instance, if I'm living at Agbara and I have to resume at work every day at Aja, that's going to be terrible. That's Aja part of Lagos. I'm sorry for those who are not taking this from the place of Lagos. Maybe let's say I live at Agbara. That's an extreme end of Lagos to another extreme end, like Ekpe or like Aja of Lagos. These are two extreme ends. So if I have to resume, I have to shuttle through every day. It means that there's like I have to spend so much time. I'm going to be exhausted. I'm not going to be able to give my best in that job. So that's where job location comes in. So I have to pay close attention to people, getting people who are within that particular location. That's it. Okay, I think the next one says about the body language. What the person does not mean the sign he or she is giving. That is where sense of judgment comes in. For instance, I would say there are some people who do not even know that the body language that they are exhibiting at the time. Take for instance, you're hiring someone for a personal assistant, and they are they are presenting some kind of personality to you. So you want to access, you want to is this person truly from your questioning. As I said, from your questioning, you can be able to find out is this kind of person like that's why we're intelligent now. So you when you ask questions, you find out is this person truly the kind of person that they are portraying. But when you throw those questions in this form, if it still does not answer it, you rephrase the question in another direction, but you get the information that you're looking for. And at the end of the day, okay, this person is not actually what they are saying, what they portray themselves to look like. So it might be in a positive light, and also it might be in a negative light. Okay, so um, okay, okay. Okay, so someone is saying how can they create a performance index in job analysis? Okay, this particular one, there's a different training that will be done practically for this. That's when the that's more like upon the completion of the probation period. That's where the for successful candidates, for successful people, that's where there's a different level of training. There are multiple trainings that will be done to help boost that capacity or to help build that capacity. Okay. So I think the next question talks about okay, someone was also contributing to the question that talks about um, uh, the countenance of the interviewer and also the interviewee. So, okay, now I wouldn't go into details. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so a candidate who knows the job and cannot express themselves very well. Wow, I don't know how to go about this. I don't know what to practically. It's not that I don't know what to say about this, but the question is the situation, the current situation. Take for instance, this candidate knows this job very well. Now, the kind of person they are looking for this role, if it does not require personal expressions, they can write their reports very well. But if someone that cannot express themselves very well cannot function in a customer service, or cannot take for instance, they have to interface with clients. You know, it won't fly. it won't fly. But take for instance that the person cannot express themselves very well, but maybe they're a software developer and they can write quality codes. What's your business? You have no business with their self-expression versus this, but oftentimes it is important. But that's where that can be managed. But in the other instances, it cannot be managed. More like maybe where they have to interface with clients and just it cannot be managed. They have to go improve on themselves with regards. That's where a feedback is given. You give the person a kind feedback, and they have to now work on that and improve on their skills and come back next time. So, for instance, there are some places, there are some job role where it does not apply. For instance, if you're a software developer, I can do this job very well. Give me codes and I'll give me a task to do, and I write the codes for you, and you are okay, and I'm okay. Everybody is fine. So as long as I can write my reports, I can. So it does not matter if maybe I am unable to express myself. But maybe if you mean unable to express themselves, do you mean unable to in English language? Or if the basic skills level, basic communication level is there, because all these things are important. The basic communication, they can speak very well. But maybe you're saying the person is shy, or the person is like maybe there are things, there are some kind of attributes, maybe engage in group conversations and the rest of that. Those ones, there are some issues that can be managed, but there are some that cannot be managed at that particular entry level. So once the person is coming, they need this skills level to hit the ground running. But the ones that they cannot use, that is not just so much of importance to hit the ground running, then those ones can be groomed over time. So as long as they have the right qualities that you need for that job role, they will be brought on board and it can be managed and improved on. But those ones that are required to hit the ground running, in fact, they just have to meet those requirements before being considered for the role. Okay. Okay, so they have the required skills and no working. I think we shouldn't be bringing up this particular question. That's this last question that comes in. That's why you have the JD. The JD states that this person must do, and the specification says they must have a certain level of experience. You must stick with that. If he's saying a minimum of 3 years, there's a reason why. That's why we have job analysis. So it means if the person have gone up to 3 years, so there's no how they would have known this thing. Take for instance, we're hiring for a HSC supervisor, and you're telling me that we should get maybe someone that is like this. They have the experience in HSC, but at least they have 2 years experience, and they want to go and supervise who? Supervise what? It can function as they can be supervised, but they cannot come and start supervising other HSC members. I don't. That's why we have this training in the first instance. So maybe you might just want to listen to all that we have said and also refer to the slide so you can you understand what we said earlier. That these are the requirements. These are specifications for the job. These are the job descriptions. So it has the person, whoever it is that needs to be hired, needs to meet these specifications before they can be considered even for interview or for the job at all. So I think this brings us to um, the end of the questions. So I think every other information will be shared with the group as we progress in the session. Okay, I think that will be all for now since there are no more questions. All right, enjoy the rest of your day and thank you for your time. I'll be ending the session now.